Welcome to the NYU State Authorization Advisor demo. The advisor was created to provide higher education institutions with tailored insight into the actions and costs related to state compliance. By asking a series of diagnostic questions, the advisor generates a detailed report, budget, and action plan to help you ensure that your institution is adhering to regulations in all the states in which you are conducting activity. So let's get started. So the first thing I'll do is click on this login link in the upper right corner. Now the first time you log into the advisor, you'll be asked to enter some information about yourself and your institution. Make sure to answer all of these questions the first time you log in, since your answers to questions like, "Are you a member of SARA?" and "Your institution's home state or territory" will be used later to generate your customized report. So I'll go ahead and select Arizona as my home state for the purposes of this demo. Once you've filled out all the information on this form, you just click on this big Create button to create your profile. And once you click on that, you'll be taken to your dashboard, which is where you can start entering information about your programs into the advisor. And based on the information that you enter, the advisor will generate this color-coded map telling you in which states you are already compliant or in which states you need to take action in order to ensure compliance. And you can see that this profile that I'm using has already been pre-populated with a ton of existing data for the purposes of this demo. The first time you log in, the map will look more like this. And you can see here that none of the states are color-coded because no information has been entered about any of them. But let's go back to my existing profile, and then let's begin by checking my compliance and authorization in the neighboring state of New Mexico. So to begin, I'll click on the state on the map. Now here is where the magic begins. If you've ever used a tax preparation software like TurboTax, this interface will be very familiar to you. The advisor will ask you a series of questions about your institution and your program to help you determine the steps towards compliance in a given state. Now you can see that the first question I get is about the nature of my institution, and I'm told I should select all that apply. So for the purposes of this demo, I'll select that my institution is a private, nonprofit, degree-granting institution. And then once I've checked off all that apply, I'll click this Next button at the bottom of the screen. The next question asks if my institution is accredited by an agency recognized by both the Department of Education and the New Mexico Higher Education Department. Now, just to show you a quick example of how the system responds intelligently to your input, I'll go ahead and select No, and then click on the Next button. You'll see the advisor will immediately inform me that my institution is not eligible to become authorized in that state because New Mexico requires recognized accreditation. Institutions without it are not allowed to seek approval with the New Mexico Higher Education Department. But since we want to get a little further on for the purposes of this demo, we'll go ahead and scroll back up and click on Yes. And then I'll click the Next button at the bottom to get to the next question. Now along the way, you might discover questions for which you need clarification or additional information. The advisor anticipates this by offering tips and links for additional information about the law and policy in a given state. For example, on this question, do you employ any agents who recruit students within New Mexico? There's a little tip down here labeled, "What is a recruiting agent?" which you can click on to get a more detailed description of exactly what a recruiting agent is and whether you actually have any. And I see that for New Mexico regulations, a recruiting agent is an individual paid by an institution to solicit enrollments. Select No if your institution's employees or agents conduct only occasional recruiting of residents of New Mexico. So I'll go ahead and click No, since my fictional institution does not have anyone devoted solely to recruiting students in New Mexico. And then I'll click the Next button. And when I get to the next question, which asks about professional licensure, I'll see that there are actually two different tips that I can click on to get more information about why this is important and more information about licensure within New Mexico. So I'll go ahead and click No, and then click Next. So that's the basic idea for checking to see if your institution is compliant in a given state. I won't make you sit through me answering all of these questions, so with a little cooking show magic, let's skip to the end of the questionnaire so we can see the report that is generated. Okay, so here I am on the last question, which asks about my institution's gross revenue generated from tuition from New Mexico-based students. So I'll enter $180,000, and then I can click on one of two buttons below, which appear at the end of the questionnaire. The big button on top is Generate Report, which I'll demonstrate in just a moment. But before I click that, let's look at this Invite Someone to Review Answers button. I click on that, and you'll see I get a popover window, which will allow me to enter the name and email of someone else at my institution. Now, this is useful in case you answered any questions that you weren't sure of, or if you need approval from someone else higher up at your institution, or if you need someone else at your institution to confirm certain activity within a given state. But we won't do that for now. For now, we'll just click on this big Generate Report button. And the next thing I'll see is my report telling me what my institution has to do to comply within New Mexico, which you'll see right here, the main thing I have to do is apply for authorization, right? And if I scroll down a little further, it'll give me more information, like what the total fees will be for becoming authorized within New Mexico, what the fees will be for licensing institutions, and, most importantly, it will give me the contact information for the person I need to reach out to apply for authorization. So I may want to print this report or come back to it later, which I can do through my dashboard. And once I return to my dashboard, we'll see that New Mexico has now turned yellow, just like the other states where action is recommended for this institution to be compliant. NYU's State Authorization Advisor offers both detailed reports for a given state and a bird's-eye view of your activity within all states, giving you the detailed information you need to plan your academic programming and focus your recruitment efforts within any of the 50 states.